This is a reading from Evidence of Satan in the Modern World by Leon Christiani. Infestations, second only to China, but in a very different case, is communist Russia. But there is as much difference between China and Russia as there is between individual possession and infestation. This distinction is, in our view, essential. China is possessed. Satan is master. He controls every movement of that great body. He has set up a perverse order of things, established an iron discipline, inculcated a terrible ambition, a lust for power which will, no doubt, increase with time, and a fury of destruction which our children or grandchildren will probably see at work. In Russia, the devil is active in government circles, in politics, in education, in the directives for the future. But what was for so long known as Holy Russia is still largely intact. Faith is alive and prayer is active. All the lies of the devil have not modified the profound faith of the Russian people. Infestations may be violent and perfidious, but are ineffective to destroy the soul of the nation. All that we know or believe about Russia leads us to trust in an essential dualism between the demonic party in power and the great mass of the people who have remained Christian. Russia not only resists the assaults of the devil, but with its patience and loyalty and attachment to old national traditions, is perhaps, with the help of the Virgin Mary, to be the Panagia, the all-holy, preparing a resurrection which will astonish the world. In any case, it is not certain that in a world conflict Russia would march alongside the enemies of God and Christ, or would obey the orders of Satan. If we are moving towards some gigantic conflict, similar to that of which, before the creation of man, set Michael against Lucifer, the faithful angels against the rebellious angels, it is probable it will not occur between two purely political blocs, but will be a conflict of religious nature between Christ and Satan, between love and hate, between faith and incredulity. Lands of temptation, possession in China, infestation in Russia. This, if we add some other countries of minor importance, which we need not mention, covers half the human race. It would be futile to say or believe that the other half was exempt from Satan's attacks. We have seen Satan at work in Christian countries, countries with an ancient Christian tradition. Neither individual possession nor individual infestation is unknown amongst us, but we might say that with us it is satanic temptation. That is the general rule. Temptation is present every day, almost at every instant. It takes on every possible form, varying according to character and temperament. Any attempt to describe it would produce a treatise on the 7 deadly sins, pride, luxury, envy, and so on. But this is not what we are trying to do. Quite recently, on the 20th of February 1959, an important Catholic weekly, La France Catholique, published an article by Maria Winowska, generally considered to be one of the most lucid thinkers of our time, entitled The Third Temptation. The title refers to Christ's temptation in the wilderness, when the devil offered him all the kingdoms of the earth. All shall be thine, if thou wilt fall down before me and worship. Maria Winowska introduces a young Hindu who has just been baptized. Together they go up to Montmartre. Before their eyes was spread the vast, magnificent spectacle of Paris. The young Hindu burst out, "Why don't you live according to your faith? The gospel is clear. In the first place, prayer. In the first place, wisdom. In the first place, faith. In the first place, charity. It's all there on paper. But in practice?" Maria Winowska replied, "You are right. But all the same, there are people amongst us, men and women, who do follow the Gospels. That is certain. There are even a great number of them, and that pleads for us. But there are many weaknesses, deficiencies, and illogicalities." The young Hindu went on, "European Christians, for the most part, live as if they had no faith. I don't mean that they haven't any, but they certainly conceal the fact." And he continued relentlessly, "I have met priests who talked to me of pastoral techniques, of methods, adaptations, of the press, cinema, and television. They are certainly good priests, but why don't they say what is essential? For us, wisdom is much more than that, more than anything else in the world. What proportion is there between Creator and the created?" Naturally, Maria Wanowska protested that we could not judge the clergy from a superficial contact. One cannot accuse them of activism without knowing the whole of their inner life. We have already had two revolutions in religious matters in the last 50 years, a liturgical revolution, which is still far from having borne its full fruit, and a biblical revolution, which is only just beginning. We have now to achieve a mystical revolution, which will respond to the justified longings of Maria Wanowska and our young Hindu. The great temptation for the Christians of our time, and no petty temptation at that, but the most widespread, general, and dangerous of temptations, is that of preferring things to God. The young Hindu maintained that he had tried to test the Christians he had met by the test used by the devil in the wilderness. Do you know, he said, that there were very few who would not have agreed to make a little bow, perhaps just a little click of the heels, to a tempter offering them the kingdoms of the world. They would say, if one got all that, it would be to the greatest glory of God, or one has to make certain concessions to the world in order to dominate it. Or again, Christianity won't be able to survive if it doesn't adapt itself to progress. I'm only quoting a few, but I can assure you that all these people had more confidence in human techniques than in faith. In brief, out of 47 persons cautiously sounded by our young Hindu, only 3 or 4 truly preferred God to things. And it goes without saying that he had only approached good Catholics. Such, therefore, is the third temptation. All these good Catholics had faith. They had even the works of faith, that is, hope and charity. They are those whom St. Paul called in his epistles the saints, those who have God in their souls. But they are also illogical souls, and we are all more or less illogical, those who do not follow the demands of their faith to the extreme limit. Souls for whom, to use Maria Wanowska's words, having is more important than being. She is right 1,000 times over when she says, all the science in the world is not worth 1 ounce of wisdom, and the most breathtaking technical progress falls short if man does not also control it qualitatively. In other words, what shall it profit a man if he gain the whole world and lose his own soul? 3 centuries ago, Pascal, in his own incomparable language, said the same thing. All bodies together, and all spirits together, and all their works, have not the value of the least movement of charity. This is of an infinitely higher order. General view. We should form an entirely false picture of our present world if we were to confuse the present division into East and West with the conflict of Satan against God, or to divide the earth into absolutely separate zones, the devil's zone covering China, Russia, and other communist countries, and God's zone covering ourselves. Let us hear what a Russian has to say. Not so long ago, our papers published an interview with a Soviet engineer who had come to Western Europe on a scientific mission entailing a fairly long stay. He said, all you Westerners are at heart materialists. With money, you can obtain all the goods you want and satisfy all your desires. As a result, you think of that alone. Your life, your activities, your science, your technology, all your occupations and preoccupations are devoted to the physical end of improving your living conditions and increasing your comfort. Cars, refrigerators, television, for the immense majority, this is your sole purpose in life. Who would dare to deny that this accusation is, in the main, justified? Materialism is not the basic flaw in communism alone. It is the basic flaw in capitalism also. According to this engineer, the degradation inflicted on man by capitalism is even greater than that inflicted by communist regimes. Here is his further comment. For us, on the other hand, such questions do not exist. That is, the search for comfort. Your comfort is practically unknown to us. Since we have no such possibilities, we do not even dream of them. This desire for a practical good which characterizes all your energy has been destroyed in us, and this destruction has liberated us. All the energy that you squander in quest of futilities, we use for reading, for reflection, reverie, music making. What else can we do when in the evening we come home to our restricted living space, rather like a monk to his cell? And he concluded with the words, yes, we have still time and inclination to think. But have you? How reassuring it would be if amongst the occupations such as reading, music making, reflection, reverie, which the Russian engineer earmarked for his own, there had been that little word, prayer. Nevertheless, it remains true that this engineer's ideals were a great deal superior to those laid down by communist leaders to reach and surpass the level of the United States in productivity, in material wealth, in millions of tons of steel and coal, in the production of electricity, cars, television transmitters, and so on. The aims which the Soviet engineer despised, and which we also despise insofar as they militate against the spiritual development of humanity, are precisely those which the leaders of his people and of other communist countries have laid down as their objectives. Communism in China has been defined as to each according to his needs, and our needs in this formulation are to be interpreted exclusively as material needs. But it is not for us to set capitalism against communism. Both are inspired by Satan, to the extent that they are a negation of God and the soul. Communism, in fact, has done no more than develop the so-called bourgeois philosophy of which it is the end product. If it is true that there is neither God, nor devil, nor spirit, and that all is matter, then neither capitalism nor communism is any more true than the other, for there is no more truth in the strict sense of the word, for all is falsehood, all is satanic. It is therefore without any particular satisfaction, but without diffidence, that one may declare that there are certain undeniable proofs of the presence of Satan in our contemporary civilization, in quotation marks, proofs which few can refuse to admit. 1. The mediocrity of our great media of communication, such as the wireless, cinema, and television, not mediocrity in technique or in propaganda, but in the beauty and nobility of their influence on the people's minds. 2. The erotic atmosphere exuded by our novels and plays, in popular songs, in all that can be summed up as show business. 3. The degradation of modern art, which seems to have lost all feeling for beauty, and to be concerned only with ugliness and obscurity. To conclude this chapter, which could easily have been extended, what do we see in the world around us? Satan, everywhere at work. Opposed to him, one single authentic force, Jesus Christ. On the one hand, atheistic materialism, lies, contempt for human life, the blood of Abel shed by Cain. On the other hand, faith, charity, the immeasurable power of love, adoration, the rejection of satanic hatred, the longing for the universal acceptance of the kingdom of God, the power of the constant aspiration of the human heart, thy kingdom come. The vision of world history has not changed. The city of God against the city of Satan, the city of love against the city of hatred. There are two banners flying, that of Satan and that of Jesus Christ. Strangely enough, the Christian who avowedly despises our present life because he knows that there is another which is eternal, nevertheless practices the most absolute respect for human life and human personality. Satan, on the contrary, persuades his followers that our present life is the only one, and that therefore this life is man's supreme good. Yet he manifests his contempt for this same life by concentration camps, by the nightmare of the vast crematoria, by massive executions and degrading tortures. In other words, falsehood and murder are akin. But the greatest reproach that can be leveled against the devil's disciples is their mutilation of man's stature by denying his infinity and refusing him immortality. The most deplorable thing about the incredulous is their narrowness of mind. They deserve the reproach flung by Tertullian at the heretics of his day. Pace orbis unice speri. Spare the sole hope of the world. If we indeed wish to possess one day this universe, which is not of the same value as our souls, we must first, by faith and love, save our souls. How much is at stake in this struggle between Christ and Satan?